How's it going, guys? I want to make a quick video for you regarding induction cooking off grid. If you don't have access to firewood or propane, or for some reason you want to cook from a battery system, you want to cook on a very portable system. These things are super lightweight, they're thin, they're quiet, they're simple. The heat transfer is very efficient. It's more efficient than electrical coil stove. It's a lot more efficient than gas. So if it's really hot in your kitchen and you want to do something, you want to cook some outside, this is a great way to do it. Now in this case, I have a 2,000 watt inverter hooked up to a 12-volt battery. It's a big 300 amp hour battery. It's a monster. I got a 14 gauge extension cord, which is probably a little on the small side here, and I got it running into a power meter. So I'm cooking some chicken for my cat. It's already warm, so it's going to boil pretty quickly here, and you can see the wattage kick up. Got 840 watts, 850, and it seems to like that area, and it just kind of kicks that on and off to achieve what temperature it thinks you're trying to achieve. Now I have seen it when I turn it on to maximum 1100 and some odd watts, but that actually depends on your pan, like the size of your pan. If I move this off the circle a little bit, you can see it's going to reduce that power. And I put it back in the center. I'm going to get more power draw here. So I'm going to turn this back down a little bit. There we go. Now it's going to cycle on and off a little bit here, and you can see where it just kicked off, and it's going to let it sit and cool back down to what it thinks that temperature is before it kicks back on. So let's kick it back up. I want to show you guys something that's really wrong here. While this is a really nice big battery and a really nice big inverter, relatively speaking, one thing that is really wrong here is the way I have this wire. I just kind of slammed this in here to do a test, and I can literally feel the heat in these wires. I can feel the warmth on the connections. I can feel, especially where this clamp connects to the negative, 77 amps going through this is way too much. So you really got to have like a proper nice connection with a ring terminal that's really in there with a nice big, I'm guessing you probably want to do something like a 0 gauge or bigger in this case for a 2,000 watt inverter. I want to see a much bigger cable, and definitely not these clamps. That's just terrible. That's a terrible connection. So we're really stressing out the wire system here and probably experiencing quite a lot of voltage drop, which is just waste heat. So you don't want to do that. But it demonstrates the point that this thing actually draws a low enough amount of power on 120 volts that it's manageable. It's manageable with you could probably use a much smaller battery. Probably a 200 amp hour 12 volt battery would do the job, and that can be handy in certain situations. You could run it off of a small 120 volt generator if you needed to for some reason, if you don't have, again, access to propane or firewood. So it's got some advantages. You want to cook outside, keep the heat outside of the kitchen. Maybe you've got a pregnant wife, she can't stand the smell. But it just seems like a decent tool to have in your kit for 80 bucks or 50 bucks, whatever these things are going for these days. Are not too bad. And especially if you don't have a 240 volt setup, with split phase inverters, you've only got 120 when there's power outages, or when you're just off grid in general, you might just have a 120 volt setup anyways. So all right, guys, if you have any comments, please post them up. Any questions? Thank you for watching.